Okay, so we're going to look at the differences between Protestantism, Catholicism, Calvinism, how the Catholic Church reacted to Luther's Reformation, the causes and effects of the Protestant Reformation on the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church's response to these two new Christian denominations in Europe. So in other words, the Catholic Reformation, the Catholic Counter-Reformation, if you will, is going to be our focus, our emphasis in this particular section as we start looking at this. Now, I'm going to cover up my fat head for a while so that I can show you some of this. So if you're in the Renaissance Digital Notebook under in right now, or excuse me, not the Renaissance, the Reformation Digital Notebook, the Reformation Digital Notebook under, right now it would be slide 6 in this year. You can see this is where you're going to need to take notes. This is where you're going to need to be to take notes. I'm gonna talk about a couple of different items here as we go along, and show you a couple different slides to explain this, but this is the base of where you'll need to operate, and this is where I'll be switching back and forth to. So let's start out by taking a look. A cause, and I'm going to switch back and forth between a slideshow here and the other, is that the church ends up becoming a little bit corrupt, as we know, during the Middle Ages, right? The church becomes corrupt during the Middle Ages, and church power is strong, but provides stability. The effect, as we know, Luther posts the 95 Theses, those complaints against the church. As those Protestant sects, and again, here's that word sects, or different divisions, start splintering off, and here's the sects again, the Protestant sects that we talked about before. You have the split with the East-West Schism in 1054 between the Orthodox and the Roman Catholics, and then Luther's Reformation, and then the various sects, Anglicanism, Lutheranism, Calvinism, and then the ones you might know, Episcopalian, and so on. Those are the various SECTS Protestant sects start to splinter off, okay, as the Catholic Church starts to lose power. So that's the cause and effect chart there. Again, as we start looking at this, then what was the cause of that? Starting with the cause, so they have what causes from that effect flow is the Council of Trent. Okay, so let's take a look at this Catholic Reformation, and let's take a look at what this is. So then, the Catholic Reformation, what is it? Again, a new reform movement in the Catholic Church trying to stop church abuses. It's basically the Catholic Church's way of saying, hey, look, we know we can reform ourselves. Okay, we know we can reform ourselves. So we don't need Martin Luther. They had to start listening to other people. Finally, Martin Luther kind of convinced them of that, but they didn't necessarily want to have Martin Luther involved with that. They didn't want to. They wanted to try to handle the problem themselves. Okay, as we start looking at this, so the Catholic Reformation, and then you have this. This is where you need to get the information down right here, about the excuse me. This is where you need to get the information down. Oops, my bad. About the Council of Trent. This is where you need to get the information down about the Council of Trent. So I'm going to put that up, and you can get that. The Council of Trent was called by the Pope. The Council of Trent was called by Pope Paul III, reaffirmed the traditional Catholic view that Protestants had challenged. That it reaffirmed the fact that salvation comes through faith and good works. Faith and good works. Okay, it reaffirmed that view, and that the Bible is the major source of religious truth. Remember that in the Protestant religion, in the Calvinist religion, faith comes not only just through the Bible and through faith alone, not by faith and indulgences or faith and in charity. The church did acknowledge that the indulgences were an abuse. So this is the Council of Trent. They did acknowledge that some of these the abuses of the church. So they did start to reduce the church abuses. There's a greater divide between Catholics and Protestants as a result of this Catholic Reformation, and a lot of warfare. Europe still remains divided over these different interpretations of Christianity today. There's violent fighting between the Protestants and the Catholics, for example, in Northern Ireland, that's taken effect. So again, these are the causes of the Council of Trent. So what you need to get down here is, what is the Council of Trent? What did it do? And then get that part down. The underlying part. The underlying part is what you should get down in the box. The underlying part. Okay. What's the effect of the Council of Trent? The council reaffirms church doctrine, as we said. One of the things that they do, interestingly enough, is they create what is known as a group called the Jesuits is created. Let's focus down here. You can get the underlying part, these four bullets under the Jesuits. I think, how many bullets did I put down here to get? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They created the Jesuits. You might be able to add the fourth if you can fit it in there. So the Jesuits was, you may have heard of them. University of Detroit Mercy, the college, is a Jesuit institution. There's numerous Jesuit institutions: Loyola Marymount, Loyola Chicago, anything Loyola. Ignatius of Loyola founded the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, a group of priests, an order of priests, emphasizing spiritual and moral discipline, a strict loyalty to the church. In other words, they get back to the fundamentals of the faith, so to speak. They're getting back to the fundamentals of the faith. And they act as missionaries that spread the Catholic faith throughout the world. When Europe begins exploration and extensive trade with China, with the people in the Far East, in the Southeast, East and Southeast Asia, Africa, Jesuit missionaries are there to try to quote unquote Christianize these people. Doesn't always go that well, but that's what they're doing. So that's where you should be getting this with the Jesuits. You might even try to add another bullet here if it's humanly possible, to add another bullet. Yep, it is possible to add another bullet. So you might want to add another bullet there if you can to the effect under that. The other thing that takes place, this is the more positive movement, the Council of Trent, recognizing the abuses of the church and the Jesuits. But the other thing that's more negative is these are so what would we call what we would call the consequences, so to speak, what we would call the consequences. One of the consequences is the Inquisition. And the Inquisition actually started in the Middle Ages, the Court of Inquisition, to root out that word again, heresy, Hersy, heresy. And again, heresy is teachings that go against the church. They even created an index of forbidden books. You can bet your bottom dollar who was on that index of forbidden books, right? Martin Luther and Martin Luther's teachings and other teachings like Erasmus and the Spirit of Fire, those would be on the index of forbidden books. So the Inquisition. So this next one I'm going to point out will have the Inquisition on it. They strengthen that court of Inquisition. The church court created during the Middle Ages, using secret testimony, torture, and execution to root out that heresy. The index of forbidden books. People were not allowed to read these particular books. Okay, so that was and there was harsh penalties for this secularism or worldliness, as the church called it. That was a big problem. So again, they created this index of forbidden books. People were not allowed to read these books, and the Inquisition, the torture methods that they would use. Incidentally, the Inquisition, you don't have to get any of this down, started in the Iberian Peninsula and under the Queen Isabella, who desired complete unity. So she gave tolerance to Muslims, but starts the Spanish Inquisition. Church courts to try those not converting and practicing Christianity. This is where it started in the Middle Ages. So they would use torture methods to get people to try to convert or try to talk about or confess to their secret beliefs system. If they're Protestant, they can't be faking it. So if they were believed to be going against the church, they would have to try to force a confession and to recant their beliefs. To recant their beliefs, they would be forced onto these, the rack or the spiked nails, or any of these medieval torture methods would be used in the Church of Inquisition. Okay. The legacy of the Reformation, again, this is back to what I was talking about, the legacy of the Reformation. This is where you need to get down these bullet points. The Catholic reformers helped to, and this is where you would talk right here, legacy of the Reformation, and get this down. So you just need to get down the fact that with the legacy of the Reformation, the Catholic reformers did help to reduce church abuses somewhat. And again, I talked about this, a greater divide between the Protestants and Catholics led to 150 years of religious warfare. Europe still remains divided over these different interpretations today. So there's still fighting and violence that goes on even today. Ireland again has a conflict that boils over every once in a while between the Protestants and the Catholics, even though Ireland remains largely Catholic. So again, these are some of the legacies and that you need to get down under the part right here that talks about legacies. So if you missed any of these points, you need to get them if you missed any of these points, you need to get them on the slideshow. If you missed any of these points, as we go along here. Okay, so if you missed any of these, you need to get them on you need to go back, rewind, and get them onto the slideshow, from the slideshow. And I kind of went back and forth a little bit here. That would be the legacy part. And again, you can certainly stop this in places or rewind to get things. So the idea here is that the Catholic Church, the major idea to understand is that the Catholic Church almost doubles down on their beliefs. They refuse to give up the idea that you need the intervention of the saints, that you need the intervention of the Pope, that you need the intervention of the priests, and you need to confess your sins before a priest, and you need the sacraments, the 7 sacraments, to be faithful, to get the repose of your soul from heaven. They wouldn't go along with Martin Luther, but they doubled down on that. They did acknowledge their abuses. So again, it's important to understand this, and that's what we were doing here with the causes and effects of the Counter-Reformation. What was I? So I wanted to point this just chart out again one more time here, as we're going along. I wanted to point out this chart one more time to talk about the different beliefs that we would have. I wanted to point this out one more time here. So you've got again, the Bible is the base of all of these religions, Calvinism, but then again, salvation by faith and good works, not just and the priest interprets the Bible and teachings, whereas the rest of these religions believe the Bible is the sole source of truth, and salvation can be attained by faith, even though the Calvinists believe that you have to act good in this life because God may have determined who was acting with faith, so to speak, or with who was the faithful, and God knew that because God is all powerful and all knowing. So again, Catholic Church trying to reform itself, and as a result of the Protestant Reformation, leaves a lot of warring and a lot of competition for believers as the Catholic Church tries to stem the tide, so to speak, of people leaving the church for Protestantism.